How's it going, everyone? It has been quite the year of game releases, but with another month and a half to go, we still got some big games coming up, and one in particular that I and several of you are incredibly excited about is the remaster, remake, whatever you want to call it. Square Enix themselves are saying it's more than a remaster, so take them for their word, because you know that's what we always like to do. But Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is a game that I have desperately wanted to see get some sort of upgraded release since its initial release back in 2007. That's in Japan. For us over here in the States, we played it in March of 2008 on the PlayStation Portable. Look, I loved me the PSP, but let's be real. First of all, that game came out all the way back in 08. A lot of you guys back then probably did not have a PSP, and even if you were a little bit older and you were like, hey, the PSP is my jam, it's been almost 15 years and you might want to replay one of the best PSP games ever, and a game that is crucial to the overall story of Final Fantasy VII. And of course, that is the prequel, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. And in this video, I want to take a look at all the things that you need to know about the game before you spend, yes, your $50, which is a talking point in its own right, given the fact that this is a remaster, a remake, a more than a remaster of a PSP game. But let's talk about it. There's a lot to go over. Square Enix in an official post noted this: in 2007, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII released on PlayStation Portable, winning critical acclaim thanks to its heartfelt story, fast-paced, exciting combat, and close ties to its Final Fantasy VII. Obviously, the overarching narrative that this game sets up is the full Final Fantasy VII game. Now the game's making a return on modern platforms with a massively enhanced and improved version of the game. This is so much more than a simple HD remaster. We're talking completely refreshed visuals, improved to game systems, a newly arranged soundtrack, additional dialogue, and more. And look, when you talk about remasters, there's a wide array of remasters. Not every remaster can be put under one category, in the sense that there are remasters that go above and beyond, like what it looks like Crisis Core is doing. And then you have remasters like your Burnout Paradises, your Mafia 2s. While they are perfectly fine, they aren't doing a lot to improve the original game. But Crisis Core being a PlayStation Portable title, it did need to go above and beyond, given the fact that it's being released on modern platforms. And Square Enix is taking that step. If you look at the before and after pictures in comparison to the original PlayStation Portable release to the current version with Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, it's definitely gonna look a lot better. And as far as performance and resolution, we'll get to that in a little bit, because there's a lot to dissect with every individual platform depending on what platform you're picking the game up on. The background to the story: it is 7 years before the events of Final Fantasy VII. The Shinra Company rules from the Mako-powered metropolis of Midgard with a frightening level of influence and military power. Part of Shinra's military is Soldier, a group of elite warriors with incredible abilities. A soldier, second class, named Zack Fair, who is the main character, and if you played Final Fantasy VII, you might be a little bit familiar with him, to say the least. He wasn't an integral component to the game in the sense that he was always there, his character was always visible, but let's just say Zack is an ever-looming presence when you consider the entire narrative of Final Fantasy VII. Zack is sent on a mission to investigate the disappearance of fellow soldier Genesis alongside senior first-class operative Angel and the world-renowned hero Sephiroth. That's all we can say for fear of spoilers, but suffice to say, this starts off as a tale that's dramatic, emotional, and has massive implications for the world and lore of Final Fantasy VII. Obviously, the character taking charge is Zack Fair, one of the better-received characters, in all honesty, from Final Fantasy fans. And if you look at Zack's overall character, he is exactly what you want a true good guy to be. At his core, Zack is a good guy. The protagonist of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, he's cheerful, dynamic soldier second class who dreams of becoming a hero. He can sometimes act recklessly, but he has that inner strength to stand and face any difficulties in his path. Angel is more so Zack's mentor and also a crucial character to the game. He's a reliable, grounded man with a sense of responsibility and trusted by all who know him. Angel always carries his gigantic Buster Sword on his back, but very rarely does Angel use that Buster Sword. He's also close friends with Sephiroth and Genesis. Then you have Genesis, a soldier first class with his own unique sense of style and a great deal of admiration for the epic poem Loveless. He's a childhood friend of Angel as well. And then Sephiroth, who is a legendary hero within the story of Crisis Core, a legendary hero and soldier first class. Sephiroth possesses great strength, And greater than most operatives, he's respected and admired around the world. As a perfect being, he is somewhat difficult to approach. The only two people who are close to him are Angeal and Genesis, and while the story centers around Zack, the development of Sephiroth is also an integral component of Crisis Core, and you'll see that play out through the game. And of course, you also have Aerith, who is a core character of Crisis Core FF7, a somewhat mysterious girl who lives in Sector 5 slums. Her first fateful encounter with Zack comes as she is tending to her flowers in the slum church. So those are the characters that, if you're familiar with Crisis Core, that's not going to be anything too surprising to you. However, what about the improvements? So let's take a look at the enhancements. HD graphics, all 3D character models, as well as UI and background graphics have been completely remade for this new edition of the game. You can see a PSP screenshot, and then you can see the same screenshot in Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. It's really, to be perfectly honest, a night and day difference. Maybe part of that is due just from the resolution upgrade, but in entirety, it's also much better in every facet when it comes to visuals. The beautiful world of Final Fantasy VII, now rendered in HD, makes the story even more immersive than before. Game system improvements and gameplay improvements have been made as well. Camera and character movements have been vastly improved from the original, yet still maintains the fun feel that was at the core to that game. The user interface has also been optimized for the latest hardware generations, and various skip features have been added for an even more enjoyable and convenient gameplay experience if you do want that. As I mentioned at the top, you got some soundtrack improvements. Many background music tracks have been given new arrangements by the original composer, Takaharu Ishimoto. What's more, full voiceover has been added to scenes that were previously text only, so now you can enjoy the entire story fully voice acted, which might not be a huge addition to a lot of you guys, especially if you played classic JRPGs, but to somebody getting into the game in 2022, that might be something that they just expect right out of the gate, and they have made that improvement. As far as the battle system goes, the Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion uses a combat system that combines command-based systems with action gameplay. Massive improvements to the controls and camera have evolved the action to create an even more thrilling experience than the original game. During battle, you take control of Zack and can attack enemies directly with his sword skills and by using preset magic and abilities from the equipped materia. By learning the characteristics of each ability and utilizing them in the right situation, you can gain a great advantage in battle. Next up, this is something we gotta talk about, because when it came to Crisis Core FF7 from a gameplay standpoint, this was one of the most divisive elements of it, and that is the DMW, the Digital Mind Wave, slot machine galore. If you've seen the trailer or glanced at the screenshots, you may have noticed the slot wheels in the upper left corner. That is the Digital Mind Wave, or DMW. This is a unique mechanic that adds a random elements to battles in Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. During battle, the slot wheels turn automatically, and a wide variety of different effects can be triggered by lining up the different images and numbers. So the DMW, this random element to gaming, it did add a unique layer to the gameplay of Crisis Core. I personally wasn't a big fan of it. However, a change that they have made is that the DMW system will no longer interrupt gameplay to show status effects, and the players can also skip cutscenes that trigger because of it. This will at least keep battles way more streamlined. I know some people like the DMW, but man, I was not a big fan of it. I could give them credit for trying something completely unique, because I've never seen something like this in a JRPG. But the fact is, they're keeping this system that was a core element in Crisis Core, but at the very least, they are making much needed adjustments to the system from making it way too jarring, and hopefully it'll make it accessible to those of you that are playing Crisis Core for the first time, because I think the DMW is going to be something that's a little bit different to any other game you've played in the past, especially JRPGs. From a battle system standpoint, a random element is in games, don't get it twisted, but this rolling machine of randomness style of play, especially when it did interrupt the gameplay, thankfully that's not happening anymore, was a little bit jarring, and at the very least, again, at least they're making the necessary refinements to make it a little bit more accessible and a little bit more, at least to me, palatable as far as it being in the game. Of course, we did talk about the visuals off the top, resolution upgrades, performance upgrades. Let's go through all of them, because the game is going to be released on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4 Pro, PS4, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, Xbox One X, One S, One, Switch handheld and TV mode have various settings, and then PC as well. Okay, PS5, 4K resolution, 60 frames per second. PS4 Pro, 4K resolution at 30 frames per second. PS4, 1080p at 30 FPS. Series X, 4K at 60 FPS, Series S 1080p at 60 FPS, One X 4K at 30, One S 1080 at 30, One 1080 at 30, Switch 1280 by 720 and at 30 frames per second across both modes, and then PC, that is going to be display dependent and your own hardware dependent depending on what hardware you have, but you can go 30, 60, or 120 frames per second on that end. As far as settings go on PC, you've got screen mode as far as playing on windowed, virtual full screen or full screen, resolution, frame rate, vertical synchronization, texture quality, high, medium, low, shadow quality, high, medium, low, AA, high, low, and off, and then ambient occlusion. So there you go with that. That is the graphical settings. Lastly, I want to know one final thing. The game will be released on all of those platforms at $49.99. If you do pre-order, you will get the Crisis Core digital pre-order bonus offer of the Materia Set DLC. Best Buy was offering a pre-order bonus of a Steelbook, but it looks like that's out of stock, so that's a bummer because that Steelbook looks fantastic. The game itself will also be released digitally, and it will have a digital deluxe edition for $69.99, $20 more than the regular release. The Digital Deluxe Edition will net you the base game, original mini soundtrack, original art book, and the pre-order bonus content. Now, the pre-order bonus content is across the standard edition as well. Seems kind of pricey to get the art book and the mini soundtrack for an additional $20, but I'm sure hardcore fans are still going to pick that up. Your mileage may vary on whether or not you find that to be worth it. For me, I think the standard edition at $49.99 is already a hefty price point given that it's a PSP remake, but guess what? So many people want this game that I don't think that $50 price tag is going to be deterring anyone from picking it up. And even though I am down on DMW, the Digital Mindwave system, a lot of people weren't. They've made the necessary refinements to make it more user-friendly in battle. And overall, there's still so much else to like about that game. That one issue I had back in the day does not negate the heart-wrenching story, the fantastic cast of characters, the great gameplay in the sense the action combat is good, the story is good, the soundtrack is excellent with a great theme song as well. There's so much good to say about Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, and I am so happy that so many new players are going to be exposed to a great JRPG come December the 13th. With Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. That's going to do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.